Hey everybody, my name is Huschenbeth and welcome to another episode of How to Solve Chess Tactics, in which I show you my approach to solving chess puzzles. Alright, so let's go ahead to the Chess24 Tactic Trainer. Here we are and we choose the Classic Trainer. By the way, there's also a Speed Trainer in which you can solve tactics in a specific time period. So it's all about speed. But we're not here to solve tactics on speed. We are here to improve our skills and in solving chess tactics. Alright, so you know how it works. Please stop the video at this point and try to solve the tactic yourself, and then I'll go ahead and do it, and then you can compare your thoughts with mine. And by the way, I just included this guideline in how I solve my tactics in the description. So step by step, 7 steps I outlined for you. Just if you want to have a look on that, might be helpful. All right, now I will go ahead and solve the exercise. So what's going on? And I will actually just do it step by step as I outline it in the description. So first, get an overview. So what's going on? What's the material? So material is equal. Are there any major threats right now by your opponent? Doesn't seem to. No, there are no major threats. Okay. Well, maybe knight g5, possibly, or queen takes f7 actually. Okay, queen takes f7. We take that into consideration. Queen takes f7, king takes f7, knight g5 would be a threat right now. Alright, so we definitely have to keep an eye on that. So what are our options? Do we have any candidate moves which take a piece or give a check? We have check moves, but we don't really want to play them. Like moves like queen g2, queen takes h2, queen takes f1 are clearly not moves we would like to play. We definitely can see that something is going on in this diagonal. Would be very nice to have a bishop on this diagonal, because that would be just a killer bishop. The white squares are so weakened, that would be really strong. But for the moment, it doesn't seem like black can play the bishop to b7 in any convenient way. So what about other moves? What about rook takes e1? That's clearly a move which takes something. Does it help in any way? Rook takes e1, and then what? Then maybe you could think about rook to b8 with the idea bishop b7. As I just mentioned, that might be a really strong idea to bring the bishop to a long diagonal, but I believe white could play rook to e7, attacking a knight on f7, and we're having a problem here. So now it's the time to look for other moves, quiet moves, and I've spotted a move which looks quite attractive, but I have to figure out if it works. And the move I'm talking about is rook to e2. And why this works is because if white takes on e2, black can take on f1 with check. It's still not over then, because white can continue with knight g1, but it looks pretty promising with the queen in a very active position on f1. And after rook e2, there's the threat of queen to g2 mate, and also bishop is hanging. So definitely white has to react in some way immediately. Alright, so let's see. If he plays rook to g1, defending the mate on g2, then rook takes b2, and now white has to answer in some way, otherwise he's just down a piece. So rook e7, but it seems rook f8 is just holding everything together and black is up a piece. As I've mentioned, there's this idea of queen takes f7, so we would like to check this move. Rook e2, queen takes f7. So in the worst case, I could just take on f7, and then knight g5 check, let's say king g6, knight takes h3, and rook takes b2, and we reach an endgame. Actually, before we take the bishop b2, it might be very smart to play bishop b7 check. Ouch, this is just crushing, because then king g1, rook g2 check, and we have this, I actually don't know what it's called in English, but you have this king in a situation where you can just give checks everywhere, and king just has to move back and forth, and actually it's just over pretty soon after rook g2, king h1, rook takes g3. It will be made pretty soon. So this move doesn't seem to work, queen takes f7 either. So rook e2, the only move we have to now check is rook takes e2, queen takes f1, knight g1. Honestly, I kind of did it in the wrong order, because first you really should check the most forced move, and this is clearly rook takes e2, and the most obvious move as well. So queen takes f1, knight g1, and now, maybe now it's time to bring the bishop to the diagonal with rook b8, and this is just a deadly threat here on the long diagonal, bishop b7, and I honestly don't see a way for white to cope with that, because now rook e7 would just be answered by bishop b7, and the queen is pinned, so queen cannot take on f7, and black is winning. So let's go through that one more time. It's also in the checklist. Just before you play the move in your real game, just make sure you have not overlooked anything simple or maybe anything more complicated. Just go over it one more time. So rook e2, threatening mate. Knight cannot move because mate on h2. Rook g1 we covered, rook takes e2 we covered, queen takes f7 we looked at. There are no other moves. So rook takes e2, queen takes f1 check, knight g1, rook b8, and this threat of bishop b7 should be a killer. What about c5? Is that a move? No, the rook on e2 would be hanging. Alright, so that seems to be no defense against bishop b7. This is just winning. So let's go ahead and play this. And it seems to work out. Alright, here we go. We solved this position. Alright, so how did we get there? First, we checked if there are any concrete moves like check or moves which take something, but then we had a look on quiet moves, and well, you just have to spot this idea of rook e2. It's actually not a too uncommon motive if something on the first rank is attacked to kind of make use of that, and here in this case the rook on f1 is not protected enough, and this is why rook e2 is possible. Alright, let's go to the next exercise. Again, your turn. Please solve the exercise before I do it. So stop the video and solve it. Alright, what's going on here? Let's check as always. Material wise, it's equal. No major threats. Well, obviously bishop g5 is hanging, but I guess we can cope with that. And we have quite a promising position here against the black king. The question is just how exactly are we going to execute? And clearly there are ideas of all kinds. So what about knight g6? That would be the first move which comes to mind. To opening up the h file, black obviously has to take back, and then we would just need something along the h file to mate the black king. But it seems to be not that easy. For example, rook a3, just knight takes g5, and the knight is just covering the square on h3. And it would be nice to bring maybe another rook into attack with rook e3, but then we have to be careful about our own king, because queen b1 would soon lead to a back rank mate. So knight g6, h takes g6. Do we have any other options at this point? I don't think so. So let's have a look at another move, which is also clearly a move we should consider here, taking the knight on e4. Always calculate moves which take something. Rook takes e4, bishop takes e4. Does that help us in any way? It kind of exchanges this knight, which is in some cases a defender of the black king, but on the other hand the bishop is coming into the defense. So let's see how this has an effect. So now we would like to further open up the black king. So knight g6 is out of question now, but maybe somehow playing the bishop to h6, for example. With the idea, if g takes h6, then queen f6 check, king g8, Now at least we have a perpetual, that is nice, but of course we want more, and I think we can actually win this by playing knight to g4, and there's absolutely no defense against knight takes h6 mate. Or is there? I don't see one, honestly. So bishop h6 is definitely an idea in the position. So rook takes, bishop h6. So how can black defend against this threat bishop takes g7? And clearly the only way is rook to g8. Alright, defending a pawn on g7. And now this is really closing down the king. So that means pretty much we just need to free the square on f7 to let the knight hop on f7 and give checkmate. So one way would be to play queen to f6 actually. Wow, that's quite a pretty move. Queen to f6 with the idea knight f7 mate. I like this move, I really do. But maybe black can defend with bishop to g6. Notice that rook to af8 wouldn't be possible because of bishop takes g7 followed by mate. Bishop g6, is that possible? Then we could follow up with knight takes g6, h takes g6, and then queen to h4. But it's not over yet. Now threatening mate by moving the bishop, but black can simply move the rook again and opening up the g8 square, and unfortunately we don't have a really nice discovered check with the bishop. Cannot attack anything. So let's back it up a little bit and see if we maybe missed something. So what I like to do is to shuffle around the moves in my variations. So we just looked at rook takes e4 followed by bishop h6. What about bishop h6 first with the idea g takes h6, rook takes e4? Then at least we haven't even sacrificed material. So bishop h6 and then rook g8, and then again we can think about moves like queen f6, crazy moves, and this seems to be much more promising, honestly. And I don't know if there's a defense. So what we have to check after bishop h6, I think rook g8, queen f6, that's pretty nasty. So what I would like to check is g takes h6, now take on e4, rook takes e4, and well, we checked already bishop takes e4, so are there any other moves in which black can defend his position? Such as rook to f8. But rook f8 is answered, I hope, by queen takes e6, pinning the bishop, and so the bishop cannot take on e6 anymore. And then rook a e8 could be answered by knight f7 check. Yeah, that's right. Rook takes f7, queen takes f7, rook takes e4, queen f8 mate. Alright, so that seems to work out. So bishop h6, g takes, rook takes e4, rook c7, no, that can't be moved, just queen f6 check. So really the only critical move must be rook f8, but queen takes e6 seems to be just winning. Alright, so let's go ahead. And it seems to work. And he takes on e4, and well, that's just an easy win here. Well, okay, he allows me to give checkmate. Alright. So that's really an important technique for you to keep in mind. Sometimes just switch around the moves in your variation, and that can help a lot. In this position, black has to play rook f8 if he wants to live on here, of course. And then after queen takes e6, clearly white is winning, but the game is not over yet. Alright, let's do one more. And once again, you know what to do. Stop the video and solve it right now. Okay, I'll go ahead, and I think this is an easier one because this looks like a position where everything is forced. As you can see, the queen is pinned. That means we have to do something as up to not lose here. And so let's look at our options. And I like these positions better because they're easier to solve. Because if I just make any move here, then I lose my queen and I can resign. So it has to be something with check. And bishop e4 check is one move, g6 check is another one. So let's start with bishop e4 check, forcing g6, but well, we could follow bishop c2, but really this is not what I was looking for. I mean, black could play knight b4, could play bishop g7. This looks not too good. I mean, in the worst case we could consider it, but let's consider another move here, g6 check. And then black has two options, or three rather. F takes g6, king h6, and king takes g6. Well, king takes g6 is refuted easily, bishop e4 check, king h6, and rook h8. And king h6 is the same thing, just the other way around. King h6, rook h8 check, king takes g6, bishop e4 check. That leaves us with f takes g6. And now this opened up this square on g5 for the knight, and if the knight hops there and gives a check and the king has to go to h6, then there's a checkmate on h8. That means we just need to deflect the bishop and then f6, and that's quite an easy task. We just simply take on b2, and if black takes back, then the checkmate is about to occur. And if he doesn't, he's just down the rook. So let's go for it. And knight g5 would maybe also be possible, but why? I mean, queen takes b2 is clearly stronger, and after knight g5, things are not that clear. Bishop takes g5, queen takes b2, queen takes f4 now. That's not clear at all. So that's also a technique kind of similar to a shuffle around technique. I mean, actually it's the same thing if I think about it really. So really today a video about this particular technique, shuffling around your moves. And here we give the checkmate. All right, that's it for now. We had three interesting exercises, and clearly the take-home message today, as I just mentioned, if you're not sure about your variations, then just try to mix up the move orders and see if it works out. Then that can, in many cases, certainly help you to solve the tactic. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you have not yet, you can subscribe. No, up here, just click on the icon of me sitting on a board and then click on subscribe, and you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. Alright, bye guys.